Wow, stories.
I'm a 25-year-old male, male 25, and my fiancé is a 24-year-old female, 24F. I have 3 older siblings, all of whom are married, and 2 of whom have very young kids. My 3 older siblings all got married to their spouses back in 2018 to 2019, with all 3 weddings happening within the span of 11 months. I was in all 3 weddings and was my brother's best man. At each one, I helped set up and tear down the decorations at the venue, set out and cleaned up tables and chairs, stayed late to help clean up, made sure everything went smoothly, and so on. Now, my oldest sister, whom we'll call Rachel, has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and my brother has a 5-month-old. My fiancé and I got engaged back in September, and our wedding is next month. A few months ago, Rachel approached me and said that she wanted to get the whole family together to celebrate my fiancé and me, saying that I was always supportive and helpful at their weddings, and that she wanted to celebrate us. I agreed, so she messaged our family group chat and presented the idea that we all get an Airbnb in the mountains. She told everyone that the weekend was to celebrate my fiancé and me. The family agreed, so Rachel planned the whole thing. For some context, my siblings and I have always been close and like to hang out together at family gatherings and holidays, and sometimes just whenever we can. However, ever since my siblings started having kids, every single family gathering has become completely focused on the little ones. While I absolutely love my nieces and nephews, sitting and watching a toddler and baby roll around on the floor, open presents, eat their snacks, and listen to my siblings talk about their children, what stage they're at, what random cute thing their kid did last week, is not exactly my idea of fun. My fiancé agrees. This past weekend was the cabin trip to celebrate my fiancé and me. Going into the weekend, we both expected that it wasn't actually going to be about us, and that it was just going to end up with everyone fawning over the little ones. The whole family said multiple times before the trip that it was a celebration weekend for my fiancé and me. They specifically said, we didn't have to pay for the Airbnb because it was for us. Well, when we got there, it quickly became clear that it wasn't going to be about us at all. We were there for about 30 minutes before Rachel and her husband left to go to the store and left their kids at the cabin with us. Her baby immediately started crying and screaming the entire time Rachel was gone because she can't be separated from Rachel. Rachel and her husband were gone for almost 2.5 hours. When they finally got back, they announced that Rachel is pregnant again. That was only the first night. The next morning, my other sister, whom I'll call Sam, and her husband left around 9 a.m. to go hang out with some of their friends who lived near the cabin we rented. They didn't come back until after lunch. The rest of the weekend was filled with my parents and other siblings playing with the kids and talking to Rachel about the kids. My fiancé and I participated for a bit because we wanted to hang out with my family, but it was very boring for us. All anyone ever wants to talk about is the kids, and all anyone ever wants to do is play with the kids. The only exception to this is my brother, who played a board game with my fiancé and me until Rachel came back inside with her baby, who immediately started screaming and crying again. At the end of the second day, my dad brought out a flash drive that contained about 40 hours of old home videos from VHS tapes that he had recently digitized. Everyone else agreed that they wanted to watch the videos. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but I was down because I thought it would be sentimental. I was the only one who brought a laptop, so I cast it to the TV and we started watching. Because there was so much, we had to do a lot of fast forwarding. It quickly became clear that 99% of the videos were from before I was born. My family was ordering me around on when to scrub forward, when to go back, when to stop, and so on. I offered several times to let someone else control it, but they kept saying things like, "You just want to skip to the parts you're in," which wasn't the case at all. In fact, I didn't want to watch them in the first place. My fiancé felt completely alienated during this little watch party, but neither of us felt like we could go do something else because this is a family activity, and I felt like it would be rude to leave or even suggest we stop and do something else. We wound up watching old VHS tapes of my siblings' childhoods for around an hour and a half before they decided they wanted to go have a bonfire. Sitting around the campfire, my siblings reminisced on old stories from their childhoods, Their college stories, their old dating stories, none of which had to do with me or my fiancé. The only time they ever talked about a memory involving me was when they brought up embarrassing stories about me and laughed about them, teasing me for them. I can take a joke and laugh at myself, but that was literally the only time they talked about me. Towards the end of the night, as the fire was dying down, everyone had gone to bed except my fiancé and me and Rachel and her husband. Everyone was leaving the next morning, and Rachel asked me, "Well, did you have any other dreams or anything you wanted to do this weekend?" As if we had completely checked off my list of things I wanted to do. Mind you, she asked me this around 11:30 at night on the last night there, when everyone had already gone to bed and everyone was leaving the next morning. I just kind of smiled and said no. Rachel asked if I was okay and that I seemed upset, but I just smiled and said I was just exhausted, which was true. The next morning, before everyone left, we had a birthday party for Rachel's youngest child, whose first birthday was 2 days away. This wasn't a part of the plan, and no one in the family group chat discussed this beforehand. Everyone brought presents for the baby, and we spent about an hour watching Rachel open presents for her 1-year-old. I was exhausted and done with the whole thing, so I went and took a shower while they did that. While I was getting dressed after my shower, my brother knocked on the door and told me to hurry up because they were ready to leave and wanted to say goodbye. After my brother and my other sister left, my dad pointed out a stack of 3 gift cards on the coffee table for my fiancé and me. We opened them by ourselves on the couch, while Rachel and her husband and my parents got the kids ready to leave. One was from my parents, one from Sam, and one from my grandparents who weren't even there. My grandparents had given us a gift card with $150 on it, and Sam had given us a $25 gift card. I don't want to sound ungrateful for those. My fiancé and I greatly appreciate the gifts. All in all, not a single part of the weekend was about us, but was completely about the children. This was par for the course of my family's gatherings in the last few years. I wouldn't have cared or been hurt at all about this if this weekend had just been a family gathering. But they went out of their way to say it was a celebration of my fiancé and me. They said many times that it was about us and to love on us. But not a single part of that weekend was about us. We got a few cards, but we weren't even given them. They were just left on the table. My dad had to point them out, like he almost forgot. If my fiancé and I hadn't been there, the weekend would have looked exactly the same. I know I probably sound ungrateful or self-centered about the whole thing. I'm very conflicted about the fact that I'm even upset. But they literally said several times that the whole point of this trip was to celebrate my fiancé and me and be about us. I feel like I can't really tell anyone in my family how I feel about it without sounding like a butthole who just wants all the attention. Am I in the wrong here? Should I even bother talking to Rachel or any of my other siblings? Edit. A few clarifications. My fiancé and I were specifically told not to plan anything and to just show up. I didn't retreat to my room as many comments suggested because I didn't have one. Everyone else had a room, and I was told to sleep on the couch. My fiancé had a room to herself because there weren't enough rooms for all of us. And my family is weird about couples sleeping in the same room before they're married. While I am an adult and can sleep wherever I please, doing so would have caused a way bigger fuss than was worth it. So I just slept on the couch. My fiancé and I didn't sulk. We participated in conversation as much as we could, but 95% of it was topics we couldn't relate to or contribute to, those topics being centered around their children. A few comments asked what my vision expectations were for the weekend. My expectations were that it was supposed to be a celebration for my fiancé and me, like an engagement party, but only with family. Those were my expectations, because that's what Rachel told everyone repeatedly leading up to the trip. I didn't have a checklist of events/activities/conversations that I wanted to happen in order to feel celebrated. At one point before the trip, Rachel literally told me she didn't want me to do any of the planning or anything because it was supposed to be for us. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. They wanted an excuse to have a family vacation. I'm surprised no red flags went off when people said it was going to be a vacation focused on you two. Who does that? Anyway, This is precisely why I'm skipping a family vacation this year. I, as auntie, get left with all the kids and doing the grocery shopping and the cooking, and it's not a vacation for me. I love all my nieces and nephews, but I'd like to spend some time with my brothers, and their wives won't let us do anything on our own. We either have to take the kids or we can't go. I'm talking about, say, taking the boat out and fishing for 2 hours. I'm sorry that was so disappointing. Probably should not do those kinds of trips anymore or stay separate so you two can escape on your own. Comment 2. That is correct. Once you have kids, those kids by definition must become the center of your universe. However, these parent siblings of yours should have known better than to promise you an entire weekend of ignoring their offspring to focus solely on you and your fiancé. Every single person involved in this should have recognized that you simply can't do adult time on a trip with little kids along. They should have left the kids with relatives/babysitters if their intention was to make this all about you. Now, for the update. Thank you for sticking around for this update. So, after that weekend at the cabin, things got even more tense. My fiancé and I were pretty upset, but we decided to keep it to ourselves. We didn't want to start any drama before our wedding, which was coming up fast. But then, my brother, the one with the 5-month-old, called me out of the blue. He said he felt bad about how the weekend went and wanted to make it up to us. He offered to throw us a small, intimate dinner with just the siblings, no kids. I was hesitant, but my fiancé thought it was a sweet gesture, so we agreed. The dinner was set for the following Saturday at my brother's place. We were actually looking forward to it, a chance to really connect with my siblings without any distractions. But then, the day before the dinner, my brother called again. His baby had gotten sick, nothing serious, but he and his wife were exhausted and stressed. He said they couldn't host the dinner anymore. I understood, but it felt like another letdown. My fiancé saw how disappointed I was and suggested we host the dinner ourselves. It was a risk because we were already stretched thin with wedding planning and expenses, but we decided to go for it. We spent all Friday night and Saturday morning cooking and setting up our small apartment for the dinner. It was a lot of work, but we were determined to have a good time. Everyone arrived, and for the first hour, it was great. We were laughing, sharing stories, and for once, it felt like the celebration was about us. But then, my sister Rachel's babysitter canceled last minute, and she brought her kids to the dinner. The focus shifted immediately. The baby started crying, and the toddler was running around demanding attention. My heart sank. It was happening again. But then, something unexpected happened. My sister Sam, who had been pretty quiet the whole time, stood up and took charge. She told Rachel to go enjoy her dinner and that she would take care of the kids. She wasn't usually the assertive type, but she must have seen the look on our faces. Sam spent the rest of the evening entertaining the kids in another room, and for the first time in a long time, we had a family event that was about us. The dinner ended up being a success. We laughed, we shared memories, and we felt celebrated. My brother apologized again for not being able to host, and Rachel thanked Sam for stepping in. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to us. It showed that our family could come together and support us when it really mattered. As for the wedding, it's next week, and we're hopeful. We've had a serious talk with our family about keeping the focus on us for the day. After the dinner, I think they finally understand. It's been pretty hard on us, but it looks like things are turning around.